All right, everybody, welcome to another Greasy Skillet session. Today we've got our newest member of the Digital Skillet family here, Bhavika. Welcome aboard. You've been with us for a week now and digging into things, which has been exciting. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the case studies that you're recording. So what do we got? What are we doing?
So basically, we are looking at how AI reacts when we give a prompt and also how it is trained to answer certain questions. We got a case study over here in which we got amazing case studies on different set of cases.
And I guess like an important thing to point out is, of course we do these in-person sessions where we work through these practical examples of like how do we interpret a policy document? How do we do data analytics? How do we generate images, et cetera, et cetera? And as you pointed out, a big part of that is actually going through these case studies that we have. How do we evaluate an RFP? How do we analyze sales data? And behind all of these is simulated data that we've actually created for things like circle fitting, how do you interpret LiDAR. And the thing that you've got today is this whole, if we have information, so it's interesting, we somehow know that generative AIs like ChatGPT, Copilot, et cetera, have an understanding. We use them as chatbots, but they've learned from somewhere. There's training.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when we want to use our own information in the system, right? We've got our own regulations that we want to use as a reference. We're going to be talking about what does that conflict look like. And the example you've got here is of this fake sport called Radoball. Chris and I, in a previous Greasy Skillet session, went through a little bit of an example on this, but why don't you run through what you're looking at here? What is Radoball? What's the whole deal here?
Yeah, so it's like a fictional sport that we created to prompt in ChatGPT. It basically tells about it's a 3-player sport, a circular sport. All the rules over here are fake. There's a foam ball for
it should be real.
Yeah.
This sport does need to get out there. This is a great sport at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. We should play it sometime.
One day, well, that'll be another session. It'll be amazing. Totally, I like it.
So here we got this fictional sport, and we also have lacrosse, a real sport, but fake rules to see how AI turns out when we provide it not really makes sensing kind of information, and how does that reacts. Does it point out the untrue information that we have provided, or does it not? Right? So here the game starts. So we have these rules lined up. We have this set of case studies that we have created and how we can prompt ChatGPT to understand the output. And here we got our slide where
you're doing this in Canva?
Yes.
So this is new for me because I'm a PowerPoint person, for better or for worse. So how are you setting this up? And this is going to be a case study. This is going to be a walkthrough. So people who aren't in our sessions will actually be able to like look at your recorded case study video and walk along this as if they were with us in the in-person session. So what are we going to talk about in this thing?
So basically we are going over this case study in which we would be covering, like people use AI as an oracle, as a knowledge system where you have a lot of knowledge and we prompt and get information, but where AI is getting its sources from, right? Is it pre-trained or is it user prompted? So we are gonna look at that, and there are some questions to think about when you see these sources. Can AI resolve contradiction? If there is contradiction between these two set of sources, does it point out, does it or does it not, right?
And I guess that would go to that lacrosse example where we've taken the fake Radoball rules, found and replaced the instances of Radoball with lacrosse and said, hey, generative AI, this is the rules of lacrosse, but somehow the Gen AI already knows about lacrosse, so how is this going to work? I really like your comment here about like, why does AI sound confident even when it's wrong? We see this in the workshops all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm 100% right.
Yeah.
And then no, and of course you could always talk to Brad. Brad has a laundry list of where AI has sounded very right and it's very
It's
wrong.
not.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
interesting. And so then you're putting together these examples. One of the big things that you're going to be talking about is, the difference between past knowledge and what happens when you attach information or in a
Right.
prompt and try to create these conflicts. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. You're using the case studies to illustrate the example, which is pretty cool. And so what does that look like? So if you pop open, let's go over to your ChatGPT and take a look at.
Wait, we want to go over ChatGPT.
Sure, like let's roll through this and we'll see how this works. And so what we can do is we'll start up a new, perfect. We've got, I see 4.0 is what you're looking to use. Part of the case study is dragging and dropping. You're going to be taking the case study that we have there for Radoball with the rules. Are we going to do Radoball or are we going to do lacrosse off the hop?
We can start with Radoball.
Okay,
I'm interested
we're gonna do this one. We throw in the official rules of Radoball there, and then we're gonna ask it something along like, hey, these are the rules of Radoball. And the classic is how many players are on a team. Which is interesting because it can't possibly know anything about Radoball because Radoball doesn't exist.
Exactly. And it would be funny to see if it actually pops up. Oh, there we go.
Perfect, right? So it's identified you can have 3 players. One of the interesting things is, we'll talk about this as well, people are very, very nervous about adding their own information to generative AIs, and like, will OpenAI or Google or et cetera, train? One of the safe things, I noticed that you're using the Plus, so you're using the paid version where we can pick the models and et cetera, et cetera. As of currently, OpenAI is saying that anything that you do with a Plus model is not going to be used to train its model, right?
Oh,
Yeah, which gives you a certain comfort. Now, certainly, we always put this disclaimer that like people need to start reading the terms and conditions because we're an iTunes generation where we just hit I accept and away we go. But generally, if you pay for it, then they're not going to use your information for training. We've run now over 200 people through our workshop, the vast majority of which are using free versions. I will be fascinated what day suddenly when you ask, hey, what do you know about Radoball? And enough people have uploaded these rules via the free version that ChatGPT says like, oh, it's a very popular sport because 200 people have uploaded these rules and away you go. So no problem, right? Doesn't know anything about Radoball and away you go. So it's using that information. If we do something conversely and instead take the lacrosse rules. Now lacrosse, of course, is a real sport, right? Apparently I learned something. You can have box lacrosse and field lacrosse.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either. I am not for all of you out there, I am not a lacrosse player person, but I thought that this was going to be a cool example. So all we've done is we've taken the rules of lacrosse and we've simply, or rules of Radoball, and we've just simply found and replaced all instances of Radoball with lacrosse, which then becomes interesting because these are then what you would consider the incorrect rules. Right. But if we go ahead and say, hey, and this is fascinating, we have to tell it these are the official rules of lacrosse. Or actually, let's not even do that. I like where you're going. Let's go, hey, how many players are on a lacrosse team? Right? So we've provided it with information, but we haven't told it to use that information.
Yes.
So let's see what happens. Right, and that's fascinating that it's now answered 3 players and 2 substitutes, but despite the fact that that's not correct. Your point about AIs being overconfident is brilliant, because if you take a look specifically as what it said, according to the official lacrosse rules you provided, so it's kind of like a little bit of a, it's covering its butt kind of like,
Yeah.
well, according to the rules, you know,
Yes.
this is what you told me. But a normal human being
Right.
should respond, hey, these aren't the, like, I know enough about lacrosse to know that this is not the real rules of lacrosse. Now, you also point out that the chat becomes very, very important, because you can say something like, that's absolutely correct. But now we could ask it, so now we're telling it, wow, you're right, you know what you're doing. But now ask it, do I play this game with a stick? Because in our Radoball rules, we don't do that.
Yes.
But in lacrosse, you do have that stick that you throw the ball with.
Right. Let's see.
See?
Oh, wow.
Right? It says you do not play this version of lacrosse with a stick, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's try to get it to actually confess that this is wrong. So you could say, well, what do you play with a stick then? Right? And then it points out you play field lacrosse, box lacrosse, women's lacrosse with a stick. These are traditional versions of the sport, right? And now what's going to be interesting is, now that you've given it the hint that like, hey, wait a sec, there's more versions of lacrosse. Now you could ask something like, what shape is a lacrosse court? In reality, it's a square, right?
Yeah.
In Radoball, it's a circle. And I will bet you $5. Are we going to put this bet $5?
Yes.
That now
that
it's
sounds
going
like
to
something.
highlight, by the way, field lacrosse,
Circular.
right? And now it's telling you this is different from traditional field or box lacrosse where it's rectangular. So it's weird that like it would have not gone and told us this, with the exception that we started already, because we've got this chat history that it's also referring to as additional
Exactly.
information. That's why that's happening. This is going to be fascinating as an example. So I'm going to really look forward to seeing. First of all, I guess we're going to be doing a case study. So that's going to be available where you walk through all of these examples, and you've got all these screen recordings, I understand, of going through using like Mistral, Gemini, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we've got upcoming an actual webinar where we're going to be digging into things like, you know, what happens when we do have conflicting bits of information? What does it look like when we're trying to do like fine tuning? What is that even?
Right.
Stuff like that. So I think this is going to be great. So we look forward to seeing at the next session. So
Awesome.
thanks everybody. We will catch you on the next one.
Yeah.